Hey, everybody. It's great to be live, great to be back. And I have a new topic, and I'm going to first read my prepared text and then go ahead and discuss it. I don't have a lot of time, maybe 30 minutes, which is not bad. All right, here we go. For those who wondered, like yourself, actually how much money the Las Vegas bound Oakland Athletics stand to make from the ballpark at the Tropicana site, the answer is a base year of $757 million. That's right. That's 128% greater than the 212 million the Athletics made, including, all right, including, get this, including off stadium revenues in 2022. Think about that, okay? Think about that. This is just in the ballpark, in the sports entertainment district, okay? That is the money generated by that construct. All right, for the its base year. Okay, based on I'll finish. Okay, all right. That $757 million also comes to 9,432,098.77 per game over an 81 game season. That dwarfs. Think about this. Listen to me. That dwarfs the New York Yankees' current take of what happens to be $8,432,098.77. You can't make this stuff up. That's the way it came out, okay? Or by a cool million, okay? Now, at this time, you're asking how I came to that number, and here's how. The document released during the presentation by Applied Analytics for the Southern Nevada Tourism and Innovation Act, then called SB 509, now called SB 1, has tax revenue estimates which served as my guide. Since those estimates are based on the Las Vegas economics consulting firm, Applied Analytics, Jeremy Arguello's outfit in part. He's not the only person, but I'll digress. He's got, I think, two or three other staffers there. But at any rate, and Oakland Athletics assumptions regarding total baseball or ballpark revenue, all one has to do is get the tax rate and then take the final tax revenue and divide it by that tax rate to get the final number. You got that? Okay. So what I did was I got the sales tax rate of 8.38% for Clark County. That's like, you can Google that. All right. And then I got the business tax rate, which is significantly lower, just a little north of 3%. And the other rates, which form the expected tax revenues, and then made what's called a weighted average calculations for those of you out there who, either want to tell your kids how this is done or learn yourself, right? That weighted average calculation is each rate, all right, and a rate that's based on the share of that tax revenue from that rate and the total. So 8.38% was 72% of the total. Got that? And business tax was 28% of the total. And I left out the other small taxes because, well, the difference is, at that point, is negligible. All right. Basically, the lower taxes drag down the larger tax rate of 8.38% to 7.1%, really about 7%. So I rounded it to 7. Okay. Now, you may be asking, why do that? Because you're trying to get as close to accurate as possible within the means of what numbers you're presented with. So you know that, for example, there's going to be a lot more revenue from sales tax than business tax and the other taxes that are anticipated for the sports and entertainment district, right? It would be wrong to take all of those tax revenues, and if you're trying to determine the total revenue for the stadium, use just one blanket and say, I'm just going to use this just out of laziness. It's better to form a calculation that represents the fact that most of it's going to be sales taxes by far, okay? Because that's what is presented in the estimates by Applied Analytics that are put in the document for the Southern Nevada Tourism and Innovation Act, or what was called SB 509 and now is called, SB 1, right? So that's why I did that. At any rate, moving forward, the basic formula then was the total tax revenues of 17 million for sales tax, and I should have put the dollar sign in, and 17 million for sales tax, and then revenues in the stadium. In other words, those revenues were anticipated to be, and I'll show you the document here, generated, if I still have that open, I do, yeah, from what's called annual operations, all right? And then 36.5 million in total tax revenue from what's called incremental visitation. And what that looks like is here, if you recall the slide, and for those of you who may not, and here's me share the screen with you. Hopefully it comes up. And let's see what we have here. That's not it. There is a number of things to pick from here. Excuse me. And as I scroll down, there we are, and that's it. Voila. See that? It's page 38 of 47. Page 38 of 47. Again, page 38 of 47. Okay, so it's page 38 of 47. Page 38 of 47. So this is the source of my information. So when you're doing the math, and they're telegraphing you how much money the A's are going to make. Beyond this, these are just the tax revenues. So you know that the tax revenues has a source, the ballpark, right? So that's what you do to come up with what the revenue will be for the base year. Now, in terms of the future, well, you can attach an inflation rate. That's another story. The bottom line is, what kind of absolute base are we working with here? And that's it. And I'll get to your comments in one moment, okay? But again, I did not conclude one-time construction. Why? Because I was trying to show the performance of the facility as an economic engine. What I mean by economic engine, I mean, what are you asked to do as a patron when you walk into this ballpark, and how much money are you expected to part with when you walk into the ballpark? Okay, that's a very basic description of what an economic engine is in the context of what the athletics or any baseball organization or business really is concerned with. Okay, all right, so there you are. And hey, if you guys could direct your attention to this, that would be great. I know it's a little esoteric and I knew it's numerical, but the point is, this is where the numbers meet the road, and the rubber meets the road as well. Now, let me go back to my text here. And so now you understand that. All right. So as I said, the 17 million, as you see, and 36.5 million, and I'll put the slide just in case. Okay. 17 million and 36.5 million. I didn't conclude construction because that's a given. All right. That doesn't speak for the engine that is the economic system that is the ballpark and what will be within it in the district. Okay. So that's it. Right. So 17 million annual operations, 36.5 million in visitation, both sales tax revenues. All right. Both sales tax revenues. Okay. And that totals 53.5 million for 1 year, divided by 7%, and that's what you use to get your absolute, all right? And that equals 757,142,857 dollars. So the total revenue from the ballpark for 1 year, the base year, the first year, will be, using applied analytics Oakland Athletics document as a basis for calculations, 757,142,857 dollars. Okay. Now the question that you may have at this point is, would this have been the same for Howard Terminal in Oakland? And basically the answer is close, but just lower for the A's. Why? The difference is that the Alameda and California tax rates are higher. So you're looking at a 10.25% sales tax rate versus 8.38% in Clark County, Nevada. Okay. But get this, if SB 293 Skinner's call for a tax increment financing district were actually implemented by the city of Oakland, the A's would have been the partial beneficiary of an $800 million bond issue. All right. And partial because the $800 million in proceeds from the bond would have been used in part to finance community benefits. Remember when the A's said they were going to pay for that as but-for revenues? Dave Coball said that a number of times, but he was counting on tax increment financing revenue to be the but-for engine. All right. Combined with, of course, the ballpark's completion operation and some off-site infrastructure improvement costs, in addition to the A's infrastructure need to mitigate sea level rise at the Howard Terminal, money that they fully intended to pay back to what should have been the Public Financing Authority that was never created by the city of Oakland. Okay? But the bottom line is the A's would realize a new world of higher revenues in Oakland or Las Vegas. The city of Oakland's constant problem of not meeting deadlines, let's be honest about this, imposed by sports leagues in the matter of building stadiums in the 21st century, but not the Warriors Arena rebuild of 1998, or the matter of building stadiums or the Raiders Coliseum example in 1996, in the 20th century, both in the 20th century, got the city into trouble yet again. Vegas wins. So now we have a new revenue picture for the Oakland A's in Las Vegas. Clearly, and let's not forget too, this money that they're going to make is subject to tax credit. So they have to make the money first before the tax credit can be applied. All right. But I digress. Clearly, 757 million spells a new world, or rather, let me be clear. Before the tax credits can be applied, the A's have to do something to trigger. It's not like an immediate, action, as I understand it. I can check back with Guy Hobbs to make certain, but I read enough documents where I'm 100% sure I'm right about it. But anyway, clearly, 757 million spells a new world of money for the Oakland Athletics in Las Vegas. Let's be honest about that. That's 128% increase, okay? Many A's fans, perhaps like yourself, believe that John Fisher will not spend in accordance with this new reality. The problem with that idea is that there's no example to back that claim. None. If they say that, then why did they not make that claim for Howard Terminal? In other words, when A's fans were also giddy about Howard Terminal, no one bothered to say, oh, well, John will not spend this money that they're going to make at Howard Terminal for extra players, because they're enthusiastic about it, okay? Which exposes the real reason they're making the claim, because they're pissed off that the Athletics are picking up their bags and leaving. All right, my friend, former marketing communications director Jim Bloom, was coming on my show tomorrow. We go back to when I worked for Elihu Harris, who was the mayor of Oakland, and he worked for the Athletics in the late 90s, wrote a post on Facebook that he's turning into video blog as I speak for me, for Zenny62, who will tell you that, okay, straight out. All right. But again, the fact is, Oakland A's fans are upset about the move. So rational thought has gone out of the window. And the real blame here, I'm telling you again, is the city of Oakland. I don't care how many people want to spin it toward John because they think he's an easy target because he's a white male and he's a billionaire. And yeah, that's racist. All right. The bottom line is it's not the truth. Okay. It's not the truth. The real blame here is the city. Picking on John Fisher because he's rich is a terrible thing to do. Picking on Oakland's government is the action to take. Now, yes, I subscribe to the Bible. I'm a believer in the Lord. And I know about getting into heaven is easier if you go through the head of a pin than having a ton of money. But it doesn't say in the next breath, put down the person because they have a lot of money. All right? Tithings and all. But at any rate, my point is Oakland's bad government habits created this scenario of bad economic development. Indeed, think about it. Where was the city's economic development person? Allison Jennings, I believe her last name is, all right, in all of this. Producing a presentation is where she was that showed Oakland had no economic development vision. Zero. Okay? Sorry, Allison, zero. Why do I say that? Because there was no vision statement. There was no plan for the economic development of the city. It was pointless. Well, we're working on hotels. Well, we've done this and we've done that. That's no plan. That is a resuscitation of what you've done in a CYA fashion. Let's be honest about it, okay? It's what it is. But I digress. It's another story, though, of a city whose government ineptness and over-politicization has caused it to sink to the lowest depths, losing 3 sports teams in just 7 years. That's what you should focus on. And if you count the Oakland Panthers, the indoor football league team that Marshawn Lynch is part owner in, that's now the Bay Area Panthers. Think about it. That's all right. That's 4 pro sports teams in 7 years. And by the way, the way Oakland is handling the Oakland Roots, which already play in Hayward, means my city I love is headed for the number 5. Why? Because they keep on being overly political about it, with politicians feeling like they have to show and put their face on every sports effort, and as opposed to hiring a sports economic development czar, right? Okay, a specialist to run things like other cities do. Like, as much as you might make a joke about Jeremy Aguilo or Stephen Hill, that's the role that they serve. And they've done it well. I dare you to tell me they haven't. They have skins on the wall, as they say. Okay? All right? All right? Oakland politicians can't get out of their own ego-driven way to save the very city they claim about to care about. And with that, I will go back and I will take your comments. Going back to when I was originally going to come in, got a few of them. Jay Belton said, can't wait for this. Gabriella says, it seems like a good topic. Mark Thompson asked Zenny, wonder if you could get in contact with the Las Vegas Neon Museum to find out more details on the move to the new Oakland A's stadium in Vegas in the near future. That's an exciting piece of news, right? No other news outlets have contacted them. Jay says, I can just hear Larry Beal, my friend from ABC, as after he watches this video. Now we know why the Oakland A's are moving to Las Vegas. Actually, I texted him this, and he sent me back. Well, I can tell so I can send. I think I can share this. Where was it? I sent it to both. This is what he sent back. So you're right. Okay. In other words, his way of saying happy fourth and saying, "Oh yeah, got it, all right." Uh, Larry and I go way back to the days when I was a City Brights blogger on SF Gate. Basically posting the same thing there that I was posting on Zenny62.com when it was a WordPress, when it was a blogger blog. Now it's a WordPress blog, but whatever. Then John Acala says, I saw a, I forgot to highlight your things here. Sorry, I got that one. Then, okay. And I got that one. And then John Acala, hey, John says, I saw an article in Las Vegas Review Journal that the A's are going to play 2024 season in Oakland. Yes. Before looking for a temporary home in 2025 while Vegas Stadium is built. Is this true? I haven't seen anything to dispute it. I've got a request and interview Dave Cobble. So hopefully that'll happen soon. Mark Thompson asks or states, I've heard nothing regarding the Neon Museum moving to the A's ballpark. Not even like legit sources like Vital Vegas and the Review Journal. Let me put that to bed here real quick and see what's going on as far as that's concerned. You know, Las Vegas, particularly at this time, is a bit tricky because you have a number of people who, well, look, we have a huge economic problem, folks. We have a lot of people suffering, and we have people who are just really trying to figure out how to make ends meet, and the government is failing us at every turn, big time. And we're worried about the wrong things like, you know, left-right issues and we quite literally are you're threatening to eat at each other rather than join together and make a better world. I mean, it's really easy to do if we try, right? But you know, I digress. I digress. Here, I am typing Las Vegas Museum. There it is, and something about something. The neon. It's supposed to be neon museum, and the neon museum history brought to light. Yeah, they don't have a. I'm looking at their Twitter account. Let me show you what I'm looking at right now, folks. Here, and hold on a second. Let me see if I can stop the screen, share screen here, and then go down. Excuse me. To Twitter, and there it is. That's the Neon Museum. Okay. Hey, welcome everybody. How you doing? Hey, thumbs up, and by the way, if you want to contribute, sure, absolutely, be highly welcome. As two, you can buy a super chat for $2 if you want me to really see what you have a comment to make. At any rate, this is the Neon Museum Twitter account here. Okay, and yeah, I let me scroll up a little bit lest you get the wrong idea. So that's a promoted tweet. Sorry, folks. Something you just can't make up. All right. At any rate, celebrating 65 years there. It says nothing about moving to the A's ballpark here, but this is the Neon Museum. Now let me take the Neon Museum as a subject here and search Twitter, and we scroll down, and it says a retired sign from, well, I don't know about that one, and it's Vital Vegas had something from last fall, and I don't see anything here as well. So if there were a tweet up announcing it, it's gone now. I heard that information too at a distance, but I don't see it. That's May 5th, 15th. And it may be that they're in, conversation to have this happen, and someone decided to float a trial balloon to see what the reaction would be. I wouldn't doubt that. If I check on the latest here, um, there's the history of Leon. It would be an interesting thing to have at the ballpark, right? But it would fall right into the sports and entertainment focus that it would seem that the Athletics are trying to establish there. Okay, so I don't see anything. Let me go all the way up here. Push it all the way up there, okay? That was 44 minutes ago. And nope, don't see anything. And perhaps someone in the comments can help or want to straighten this out. Don't see it, okay? At all. Yeah, I don't see it. Oh, migration? No, web migration, not the migration. All right. So at any rate, I don't see that here. And let me go back here. Okay. So let's see what happens. He says, all right, Neon Museum. Got it. Is renovating the Coliseum even an option, or would that just be embrace of money? John, are you referring to renovating the Coliseum with the idea that the A's are going to stop everything and turn around? No. Until you clarify that more, or if you want to come on real quick and explain it, let me say this: Major League Baseball set this in motion. It had Dave Cavall serve as baseball's emissary at first, talking to Carolyn Goodman, the great mayor of Las Vegas, back in 2019, in sort of an exploratory fashion. And they were, in short, just setting a kind of a time bomb, all right, that would go off whenever the commissioner decided that the city of Oakland wasn't working quickly enough to get a ballpark done. Because they were wary, and rightly so, given what the Raiders had gone through, of being in the same position. But ironically enough, they decided to fashion themselves, well, what the Raiders did, an escape hatch. But let me explain something here, because there's a vast difference in reality between where the Raiders were and the A's. Let me take the Raiders. The whole issue of the Raiders being in LA, excuse me, did I just say that? It's where they wanted to be. In Las Vegas started because the Raiders wanted to be in LA for some time. That was Mark's thing. And that was even before 2012. And you would say, why is 2012 significant? Because a gigantic sports business explosion occurred of nuclear proportions, when Steve Ballmer bought the LA Clippers for $2 billion. That's what happened. Okay. He bought that. Remember, he bought the Clippers and then moved them, to eventually play where the Lakers are playing. $2 billion. Now, previous to that, they were worth maybe, 200 million? I think it's being too generous, okay? But when that happened, and I remember where I was when it happened, that was early in 2012. And the talk was already way early, like before, like early January, and late 2011 into 2012. And the idea was, hey, you know what? Because remember what happened with the Clippers prior to that. Their previous owner had to sell because he was, saying a lot of racist stuff. So Mr. Sterling, Mr. Donald Sterling. But anyway, that sent shockwaves through the National Football League. And it took the question of, hey, why aren't we in LA, and made it a scream. Why aren't we in LA? Because obviously, if Ballmer's purchase can lift and did lift the average franchise value for NBA teams, imagine with a new stadium down there and the relocation of teams would do for the overall franchise value for the National Football League. Okay, that was the reason. But Mark, and I was there when it happened. I'm happy to play the video another time, but not now. It's here in Zenny 62. I was there when Mark Davis lost that vote in Houston, and you could see he was not a happy camper. And but when he got up to the podium, Mark Davis did not make a commitment to Oakland. Mark Davis made a commitment to find a new stadium home for the Raiders. That was an entirely different scenario from the Athletics. The A's were not originally under post the San Jose debacle. We're not trying to move out of Oakland. They had made a concerted effort to be a part of Oakland, to stay in Oakland, and to become, yes, rooted in Oakland. Okay? But a little funny thing happened along the way toward a new ballpark in Oakland. The Supreme Court, yes, a different Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court nonetheless, and I believe they would have made the same decision. To make a long story short, made sports gambling legal, which took Nevada and its expertise in sports and gambling and lead time advantage in sports gambling and made it something that everybody wanted to be a part of, because you have to learn from them first. And wow, here comes the UNLV professor with a document released in 2014 to tell us how to do sports gambling and not worry about the illegal problems, because this professor had it all sorted out. Mark Davis was presented with that document in 2014. And that is when Mr. Davis began to think about Las Vegas as a possibility, although he really wanted LA. He wanted to be that team. He didn't think the Chargers should have been there. And there was a lot of reason to back him. There's also a lot of reason to believe that had the Raiders been at SoFi Stadium, they would have been the bigger draw than the Rams. And maybe Mr. Kroenke didn't want that. To me, I hope I'm wrong about how Stanley looks at things, because my thought is, you know what? I would want to have the Raider money, and churn. It also could be that Mr. Kroenke was thinking, look, if I have the Raiders here and the Rams, I still have the Chargers in San Diego, and that market is, fed with the NFL, as opposed to if I take the Chargers away and have them here and leave Oakland up north, which is what his thinking was, then I've got the whole South to myself. That's what he was thinking, theoretically, from a stadium operations standpoint and revenue, okay? But Mark Davis didn't want to be second fiddle. Mark Davis decided, you know what? There's this gambling document. I'm going to UNLV, and here's Napoleon Kaufman there to rally the troops in Vegas, including his boss, Shell Nadelson, who happens to be worth $30 billion, to get them, the Raiders, to Las Vegas. And that's when everything changed. So it's a completely different story than the A's. But the Raiders did, and how the NFL handled it, both badly and well, set the hallmark for what the A's would eventually do in terms of fashioning the Athletics' own escape hatch from Oakland to Las Vegas. And I believe they had help from Mark Davis, because he protested to me a little too much, and I started to get, and I'm still suspicious that, hey, look, you know what? He's really involved in making that happen because he knows it enriches the franchise value for the Raiders, the sports betting market, and it makes Las Vegas a sports capital, and it literally alters the market. That's why a lot of you talking about the TV market, you miss. A TV market is not set in stone. It can be altered, particularly in the age of the internet. But also, you're moving a team. So you're moving the eyeballs. All right? So yeah, the Bay Area may be a better market on paper, but you got to capture it. Meanwhile, Las Vegas is moving. You know who's moving with is people. So the population is growing to become that market. Not as big as the Bay Area by any means for a lot of reasons, but a market that pays off because it has visitation rates that are unlike any other place. You know this in the United States. All right. So, okay. So let me continue with that. Okay. Um, and here we go. All right. This is a big waste. Okay. Got it. It says maybe getting expansion team. I think this can happen myself. I'll explain why in a second. The SCOTUS ruling regarding sports betting made everyone take Vegas seriously as a legit major city. Yeah, well, you know that, and the fact that Mark Davis, look, Mark Davis being there ahead of time, that was genius because it was really Mark making that move, and then the SCOTUS ruling. Remember that happened the year after the NFL approved the Raiders to go to Las Vegas. So it was Mark made a good bet, an incredible bet. You got to give him his props, okay? And I want to get to that too. A lot of Bay Area media folks, including Larry Beal, and I reminded of him and this and that make fun of the Raiders. And they made fun of the A's and they call them names and all this stuff. You think they don't remember that? So is anyone making fun of Mark Davis now? He has the Las Vegas Aces, which are the darling of the WNBA and the champion. I don't hear anybody making fun of Mark now. Okay. Mark is an understandably very sensitive person for a whole host of reasons I don't want to go into. And he's sensitive to a point where he wants to get even and show you by his success that he knows what he's doing. And there is the old saying that there's no better revenge than success. All right. So keep that in mind, those media guys that are trying to figure out how to hold their jobs and yet making fun of Mark Davis. And he's got and you had all these people trying to grovel for him to pay them, like as media people, like who are writing now, okay? And people who I know, people who I like, but facts are facts. They became Raider all-inners, Raider lifers because Mark was paying them. And Mark was getting the money. And they made a smart play for as long as it lasted. All right? But that's the truth, okay? So, David Jackson, Oakland's not getting expansion team without a new modern stadium. Agreed. Correct, David. How you doing? Matthew Green says, I'm of the belief that Major League Baseball believes that having two teams is a zero-sum game between this market and doesn't grow the pie of casual fans. Las Vegas, Portland, Salt Lake would grow the pie. I disagree in the Bay Area context. I think that had Howard Terminal been built, that rivalry would have been strengthened, and you would have been able to literally, as an A's fan, thumb your nose like that at the Giants ballpark from Howard Terminal. You just had the right binoculars, right? You could do it, but that opportunity is gone. Although I think Howard Terminal ballpark should still be built. Yeah, I said that. I said that. Where do you think the owners vote? When do you think the owners vote would be done by? I suspect they will have the owners vote, then the signing ceremony, insider in front of the Tropicana with the governor and Caval and Fisher? I don't know. Do I think it's soon? Not maybe within next month. But there's a complication regarding, well, first of all, we have the holidays here, but there's a complication regarding you had to give the A's time to prepare their proof. All right. In an odd sort of way, I sort of helped them. But they've got a lot to explain. You can't just do that overnight. You have to lay out your documents. You have to lay out your case, lay out your economic case. It's not like you just make a phone call and say, hey, what do you think, guys? It's not like that anymore. There are complications with the Giants that have to be addressed. I think Jim Bloom will talk about that tomorrow at 5 o'clock when he comes on my show, Eastern. And he's laid it out pretty well regarding the fact that, hey, when the Giants wanted control and got control of San Jose territorial rights, even though they technically lost the vote back then. But Major League Baseball's never been wanting to change it. But the bottom line is that the reason is that, and I agree with Larry Bear on this from the Giants. He says 47%, this is what I want to talk to Jim about. 47% of the Giants fan base comes from San Jose area, Silicon Valley. So why do they want a team down there? Now, Jim's point is, hey, look, you know what, Zenny, Oakland is closer. Yeah, I know, but it's Oakland, and it has the A's, and Oakland is, right? And, well, it's hard to, I can't argue with Jim on that. He's right. He is right. But I also can't argue with Larry, because Larry's thinking, look, they gave it to me. It's mine. I want it. I almost feel like I'm talking like Rod Blagojevich when I think about Larry Blair. Oh, my God. Yes, I did interview Rod Blagojevich, and if you know who I'm talking about, you know politics. Met him at the historic 2008 Democratic National Convention at Pepsi Center, what was called then, and now it's called Bally Center in Denver. Anyway, yeah. So point I'm making is Blagojevich, you know, saying I got this thing I want to play with, right? I'm talking about Larry Bird, the Giants. So would someone cut this part out and send it to Larry? Maybe I will, just to tease him. Hey, Larry, I'm calling you Rod Blagojevich. Anyway, boy, what an image there. Okay, so my point is that they got to work out the matter of the Giants in that territory, because that's going to come up in those conversations too. So it's not a slam dunk thing. All right. And then he says, and the union leader is standing next to them. I'm not sure where we're going with that one. And the Vegas mayor also. Okay, well, whoever. Vegas is using all eyes on me strategy regarding sports and convention tourism. Well, but then why not? It's the internet. You get your information from the internet. You get your information from television. Las Vegas is in your face now. Boom, boom, boom. A lot and more because of sports. It's smart. Compare that to any other city, including Oakland, spending money on commercials, which Oakland doesn't do, or any other kind of little, podunk way to get their name out there for the same reason. All right. Las Vegas has the right idea, and they have the visitor rates to prove it, although this weekend doesn't look good. It's a little light from my looking at JK Stay in Vegas video. Looks a little light there. Okay. And he says, when San Jose asked to be removed from the San Francisco territory for a possibility of a team, in so many words, Manfred denied them and doesn't see any Northern California team in the future. Well, Manfred didn't say that, because you have the Giants. But Manfred did not close out the East Bay. Look, anything can be gotten for the right price. And you need, as Lean Steinberg reminded us when I had him on here, you need a stadium. Oakland, as Eric Grubman said to me way back in 2015 when he was here, and I was going back and forth to the NFL meetings regarding the stadium situation, as Commissioner Goodell would put it, he said to me that Oakland is reactionary. There's no evidence that Oakland actually planned to build a stadium for the Raiders until this threat of moving came up. And even then, when Vegas was first mentioned, the city did not take Las Vegas seriously. And remember, after that, how Mayor Schaaf was making fun of Vegas all the time, which is absolutely ridiculous. I didn't endorse it then. I don't endorse it now. Okay? That's not the way to run your city. Sorry, God sister. All right? It's just a fact. The funny thing is the Bally's has been quiet. Not entirely. But Bally's knows they've got some money coming into them. I believe the mayor and city council have another plan for Howard Terminal and the infrastructure. Having a plan is one thing, but implementing it is another. Okay? Oakland needs an economic development plan, and we need to have a timeline of implementation, and then we need to work the timeline. This is something that Oakland has never done in its 21st century history as a public organization with respect to development, large-scale development. We have to prove we have the will and the initiative to complete big projects. I've said that before. I said that as far back as when the Raiders issue was on the table. And I'm saying it again now. And nothing has changed except the fact that Oakland has improved it, which is a big something. I expect an announcement with the ballpark shortly after the A's say they're moving officially. Show says, what hotels do you like to stay in Vegas? John, great question. Well, from an affordability perspective, I love Bally's. It's now Horseshoe. I haven't checked the rates. Now, the place I did stay in once I really loved, but I have to put a giant asterisk on it. And I'll just tell the story. I was there for CES Las Vegas, and I'm going to start back with tech-related vlogs, like starting tomorrow. I'm way behind on that. But I want partners in that area too. I want partners. I want to be content partners with people because I have to follow our media model. The one I'm following is ad-based that's not the intent. It's only part of it. But I digress. My point is that the Cosmopolitan. In fact, speaking of which, I love that hotel. I love it, but I only stayed in once, and it was only because I met this woman I thought was going to be my wife. I'm just putting it out there because it's true. I thought that was it. I thought, okay, I saw her at this party, and we just connected. She had a hotel room there. She was actually she was working for a firm. I'm not going to give away the firm she was working for, but she was running the party, and I was immediately like, I got to meet this lady. Only Tylenol rapid release. And that was what happened. And so next morning, went to breakfast, spent the day with her, and things didn't quite work out after we returned to our respective areas like I thought it was going to. So then that happens, right? But yeah, I love the Cosmopolitan, but it's expensive, and so you go there when hey, look, you go there, you got the money to spend it and properly enjoy it. Otherwise, The other place, so I love that one. I like to visit. Also, let's see here. I like Treasure Island. I stayed there. This is the Cosmopolitan. All right. Here. All right. That's my I'm giving you the Cosmopolitan room tour. Okay. That's the room tour. The Niners were playing television. That's our bed. That's the Niners who were there. She was packing her stuff to leave because she had to check out. I already had my stuff, with me. Actually, I was staying longer.
This is really cool. Wow. Yeah. This, man.
Yeah. So that was it, right? That's my music from it. But anyway, you get the that's we play that. That is that little music was created by a very talented lady named Emily Palin in Oakland. She is a violinist that I know. She made that especially for Zenny 62. Cool stuff, huh? So yeah, Emily Palin's music. That's what that is. At any rate, that is a Cosmo. Okay, so that answers your question. Nothing's changed in Oakland. That we have no major league sports for now. I'm staying at the OYO for the first Raider preseason game. Used to be Hooters. I stayed there. That was always disappointing when it was Hooters. I haven't stayed there as Oyo. Is that how you pronounce it? John says I like Red Rock and Green Valley Ranch, comparatively affordable and quieter off the strip. Yeah, that's a great point. I have to put together kind of a montage. I think what I really want though is I like to partner with someone in Las Vegas who's there to do live streams for this channel, because live streams where you're walking around, that's people want to see that, okay? And I want to get my number count up to where I'm at the 100 or 200 range. And glad I last year, yeah, which means more tourist rate stuff. Anyway, it is now 6:41 p.m. I am on a hard stop of 6:45, so I will just be ahead of that. And I will say, folks, tomorrow I really want you to join me and my longtime friend. I'm really jazzed that we reconnected. Jim Bloom, who just a wonderful guy. Who this is Jim, and like I said, we go back to when I was economic advisor to Oakland Mayor Elihu Harris, and he was the director of marketing communications for the Athletics. He was 1995 to 2002. So our careers parallel each other. He came in the A's in 95. The same year, later that year, I was hired by Elihu to work for him as economic advisor. So 5 o'clock tomorrow Eastern, join me and Jim Bloom. I think he's got a video on his way to me, which I'll post. Hopefully he'll send it today. We just finished communicating. All right. But for now, and tomorrow's Wimbledon. I'm excited. Woohoo, Wimbledon. Who do you think is going to win Wimbledon? And share this around, please. Thank you. For those who want to get out the truth about what's happening in Oakland from a more algorithmic, empirical standpoint. I understand that Oakland Athletics fans are upset, but folks, I have lived this, and you'll hear Jim and I talk about this tomorrow. I have lived this for 30 years. So the Athletics, in this incarnation of them from an ownership perspective and experience and attitude, are tired. But I'm also telling you that Shang Tao had no business advancing the extortionist approach that Mayor Schaaf started with the Athletics, having the Athletics pay for everything from staffing to legislation and running up the legislation in Sacramento, promising to implement the enhanced infrastructure financing district and use tax increment financing to pay for community benefits, affordable housing, offsite infrastructure, and then literally not doing it. And here comes Shang basically, putting salt on the wound by saying, all right, I want you to pay for this. Not like, hey, we understand that we made a mistake. There's legislation here. We're going to use the legislation. No. She decided she was going to become Libby 2. Literally. All right? That's a bait and switch, folks. That's wrong. It's unethical. So if you're mad at anybody, you should be mad at the government of the city of Oakland. And politicians should not be placing themselves in the role of economic developers. It looks corrupt. Do you understand? We've got to go back to the way it used to be. You have specialists that are not politicians running the effort, heading the press conferences, working with the developers. That's the way it is. The politician's role is oversight. I mean, all these folks, like thinking that they're experts. Libby's not an expert. She thinks she's the expert. She thinks that all she had to do was read the right lines until she got the wrong ones and she got tripped up. That's not the way to run a city. That's not the way to handle your sports teams. I've had council members, both current and former, talk to me about how they feel about an owner. Well, how about who is working on the project? Take your feelings out of it because they're contaminating our ability to do economic development in Oakland. Oakland is a mess. Nobody should be taking victory laps or talking about what they're working on or trying to present a small WNBA team as a replacement for the NBA or the NFL or Major League Baseball. Let alone a soccer team, no offense to the Roots, but it's a fact, that's not even MLS. It's ridiculous. See you later.